Okay, just to give everyone a heads up real quickly, word of warning, a disclaimer on tonight's episode. If you are not a fan of glam metal, you are probably not going to like this episode because what I am doing tonight is I am doing another episode of Song Tournament, and I am going to focus on American Glam Metal Band Poison. Yes, Poison. I fully admit, glam metal is not exactly my favorite genre of metal, but it's not without its merits, and I do think there are some artists that pulled it off decently well, and Poison would be one of them. No, like I said, they are definitely not in my top 5 or anything, but a lot of their songs I think are pretty catchy, and I think they are worth a listen if you have not heard them and don't already hate them. But anyways, as we know, this is fronted, or Poison is fronted, by lead vocalist Bret Michaels, and he is supported by guitarist CC DeVille, bassist Bobby Dahl, and drummer Ricky Rocket. And I am gonna, like I said, be doing a song tournament. And in case you do not know the rules of this game, basically the way it works is through a simple Google search, I looked up what were the top 16 Poison songs ranked from 1st to 16th, and I have arranged them inside an NCAA basketball tournament bracket. And basically, I'm going to go through every single round, and I am going to declare what I believe to be the best song out of the two. And it's going to go straight down the list, straight across the bracket, and whoever is still left standing at the very end is going to be declared the greatest Poison song ever. I know a lot of you are probably saying this. Oh, that's not really much of an accomplishment. That's not saying much. But like I said, guys, some of these songs I really do enjoy, and so I think this is worth a listen. So anyways, we are going to start off with round number 1. And of course, I am pretty sure everyone thought this would be ranked number 1. Every Rose Has Its Thorn versus the number 16 seed, which is Valley of Lost Souls. Now, of course, Every Rose Has Its Thorn came off their second album, Open Up and Say Ah, and Valley of Lost Souls was the opener to the Flesh and Blood album. Well, technically it was the second song, but the first track was really more of an intro. It was just some sound effects fading in. But anyways, I'm just going to be brutally honest. I know that Every Rose Has Its Thorn is their number 1 hit out of their entire discography. And to be fair, for acoustic ballads, I thought it was kind of decent the first couple of times I heard it, but man, I have just heard this song so much, and I am just so sick of it. I mean, on its own, it has its merits, like I said, and it's not a totally horrible song, but I am just so tired of it. Valley of Lost Souls, on the other hand, as I said, it is really the true opener to the Flesh and Blood album, and I was admittedly kind of blown away the very first time I heard it. As I said, that first track is really just sounds like some bass and keyboard sound effects. I'm not really sure, but oh well, someone can tell me in the comments. But it just fades in and fades in until the entire thing just explodes when Valley of the Lost Souls starts. And man, it has got such a good rhythm, I think. And I think it's still a pretty heavy song, despite being definite glam metal. It is a pretty heavy song, and it's pretty fast, and man, just the rhythm just really sells it for me. And some of you may really like this decision. Some of you may really hate this decision. But I am going to give this round to Valley of Lost Souls. I really love Valley of Lost Souls. And Every Rose Has Its Thorn, like I said, was an okay song, but I have just heard it way too much. Valley of Lost Souls is heavy for Poison standards, and it's fast, and like I said, it's just very thunderous and such a great opener that I'm going to let it win round number 1. So now we come to round number 2. We have the number 8 seed, I Won't Forget You, which is off the Flesh and Blood album, versus the number 9 seed, Your Mama Don't Dance, off the Open Up and Say Ah album. And Your Mama Don't Dance is a cover. It's actually a Kenny Loggins cover from what I understand. I think it is, yes. And I Won't Forget You is kind of a ballad. And really, to be honest, there are good ballads and there are not so good ballads. And I am going to get to some of the more enjoyable ballads in their discography later on this episode, but I just do not think I Won't Forget You is such a great ballad. It's just too slow, but at the same time, it doesn't really have much of a kick to it. And I mean, the chorus, I won't forget you, babe. It's not hitting the emotional punch that it definitely wants us to feel. Your Mama Don't Dance, though, I think is a pretty decent cover. It's a little bit more fast, a little bit more upbeat, and I think it flows very, very well, and I think it's a very decent cover. No, your mama don't dance, and your daddy don't rock and roll. It really has more of a 50s rock and roll vibe, which I really definitely do respect, and it's definitely a change up for some of the other stuff that they've been putting out. But I like Your Mama Don't Dance. I'm gonna give this round Your Mama Don't Dance. So the number 9 seed has defeated the number 8 seed. So round number 3 is next on the list. We have Unskinny Bop versus Life Goes On. And Unskinny Bop is a very, very, very silly song. It's a little bit slower, but it's got a pretty catchy bass intro. What really sets a lot of these songs apart from Total Disaster is that they are incredibly catchy, and I think they're very, very well written. It's very upbeat. It's not a very dark number, but just like some of their other stuff, I just gotta say that something about Unskinny Bop just really puts me in a good mood. Not that there's not much to it. No, Unskinny Bop all night and day. Like I said, it's a really, really silly song. But even though it's slower, I think it has a really definitely good rhythm. And again, the bass really complements it very, very well. And man, even the drumming I think is pretty solid. Life Goes On is more of a more ballady number. It's a little bit slower, much like I Won't Forget You, and it's off. Both of these are off the Flesh and Blood album, but again, they've done good ballads and they've done kind of ballads that don't really go much of anywhere. This would be one of the ones that doesn't really go anywhere. Unskinny Bop is going to win this round, and that proceeds on to the second round, or second bracket, I guess. But anyways, we have now round number 4. We have the 4th seed, Nothing But a Good Time, versus the number 13 seed, Flesh and Blood Sacrifice. And guys, I am sorry, some of these titles did not quite fit in the brackets. I did the best I could, but this is really the best I can do, so I'm really sorry. But Nothing But a Good Time is their definite anthem, okay? It's about enjoying life. It's about just throwing caution to the wind and just living your life the way you want to and just having a good time because you only go around once. Not a bad philosophy, but I can see some errors in that. But the chorus is incredibly iconic. Don't need nothing but a good time. How can I resist? And so, yeah, it comes on the radio a lot, and they always play this one in concert. I'm pretty sure it's usually one of the last songs they do, at least every time I saw them. I've seen them, I think, 3 times now, and they always say this one towards the end. But then we have Flesh and Blood Sacrifice, which is obviously from the Flesh and Blood album. And I actually think this one is better than Nothing But a Good Time. It's, again, a very, very heavy song by Poison standards. And, again, the rhythm just really sells it because it is such a catchy song. And, we have Flesh and Blood Sacrifice. That's the hell like fire and ice. And I think I said that incorrectly, but I did my best. But yeah, I mean, it's a really, really catchy song. And I think what really sets it apart is just the rhythm and the songwriting. Both of these are two very, very anthemic numbers, but Flesh and Blood Sacrifice is going to win this one. I think it's a really, really underrated Poison song. So now we come to round number 5. We have the number 3 seed, Talk Dirty to Me, off the Look What the Cat Dragged In album, which is their very first one, versus Look But You Can't Touch. And I think Talk Dirty to Me is really, really good. Yeah, it's kind of glammy, but it's also very heavy at the same time, and I just really love the beat to it, and I really love that intro guitar. It doesn't really feel 80s. Again, it kind of feels more like a 60s or 50s song, but it's just really, really great in my opinion. You know, lock the cellar doors and baby, talk dirty to me, man. It's such a great song in my opinion. Look But You Can't Touch is not a bad song. It is off the Open Up and Say Ah album, but I don't really think it holds a candle to Talk Dirty to Me, and so Talk Dirty to Me is going to proceed. 6th round, round 6, we have Look What the Cat Dragged In versus Cry Tough. And they are both from the Look What the Cat Dragged In album. And they're very, very different songs, okay? Look What the Cat Dragged In is more of a slick and sleazy number, and at least every time I've seen them, they opened up with Look What the Cat Dragged In, and, you know, I still like it. Oh my God, look what the cat dragged in. Living my life, sin after sin. I think it's pretty catchy. But on the other hand, we have Cry Tough, and this is actually the first song off their very first album, and it starts out with a pretty somber drum intro, believe it or not. But then, of course, you know, the guitar starts picking up, but this one, even though it's fast, it's kind of gearing more towards a ballad. I wouldn't quite call it a ballad, I would still call it a rocker, but at the same time, it is one of their more emotional numbers, and I actually think it kind of works. I mean, there are a lot of things they've done that haven't worked. I think that one does work. So, I mean, I have two very different songs here. And to be honest, ask me another day, I might go the other way on this one because I have heard Look What the Cat Dragged In a lot in concert. And it always got my blood running. But, all right, I'm going to give it a Cry Tough. Yeah. I may regret that decision in the morning, but for now, I'm going to stand by that. So we now come to round number 7. We have the 7th seed, I Want Action Tonight, versus the number 10 seed, Ride the Wind. And as you've probably guessed, I Want Action is another very, very silly song. And I'm going to be honest, even though, let's say, Unskinny Bop, I think that's also a very silly song, but it works for me. I Want Action does not work as well as maybe some of their other stuff. Ride the Wind, however, I do really, really love. From what I understand, it's about someone riding their motorcycle on the highway and just feeling the breeze, enjoying the moment, and living in the moment and riding the wind. And it is slower. It's not a ballad by any stretch of the imagination. It's definitely a rocker, but it's definitely a slower song. But again, that emotional kick is just there. I'm just like, this song is awesome, and I Want Action is just silly. But yeah, they always played Ride the Wind whenever I saw them in concerts. One of their biggest hits, by the way. And I'll admit, I was jumping up and down. I was pounding my fists. I was singing along. Ride the Wind hits the emotional chord that they were trying to. Ride the Wind is going to proceed. And I did not really have to think about that one. Last round, round number 8. We have the number 2 seed, Fallen Angel, versus the number 15 seed, Something to Believe In. And Something to Believe In is kind of the counterpart to Every Rose Has Its Thorn. Something to Believe In is off the Flesh and Blood album, which came after Open Up and Say Ah. And I kind of feel like that they were trying to recreate the success from Every Rose Has Its Thorn. Really wouldn't surprise me. That's a very logical course of action, by the way, and I would not blame them in the least. And it's got a piano intro, and then it starts kicking in a bit, but it's still very, very much a ballad. They played this every time I saw them in concert as well, and Bret Michaels dedicated the song to the troops who are fighting overseas, and I really, definitely, really respect that, and I give him credit for that. The song may not be one of their stronger songs. If this was going up against Every Rose Has Its Thorn, which, again, they're very similar songs, I would really be struggling with this one. But unfortunately, for Something to Believe In, it does not hold a candle to Fallen Angel. Fallen Angel is off the Open Up and Say Ah album, and this is another one of those songs, just like Ride the Wind, that just really gets your heart pounding, and it just really makes you feel good to be listening to it. From what I understand, it's about a small-town girl who goes off to Hollywood pursuing an acting career. Okay, I get it. And she kind of realizes that it wasn't really what she thought it was all going to be turned out. It was going to turn out to be. She just envisioned the glitz and the glamour and the fame, and she didn't quite realize that Hollywood is a very, very dirty business, and very few people are actually successful in it, and it's got a pretty powerful message to it. It also is incredibly well written, okay? Like I said, it's got that emotional kick to it, and we have Win Big, Mama's Fallen Angel, Win, something I can't remember, but basically, guys, I think it's a really great song. It's another song they played in concert all the time, and it's one I really got into, the entire crowd got into. It's pretty fast, but it's also very emotional, and Fallen Angel is gonna win this round, and that one was not even close, okay? So that completes the first little bracket right here, and we're now gonna move on to what is going to determine the final four. So let's go ahead and go back up here. And let me see, 3 songs from the top 8 actually survived. 5 songs from the bottom 8 made it through, so, just my opinion, I'm just going to say that. So we have Valley of Lost Souls versus Your Mama Don't Dance. And again, these are very, very 2 completely different songs. Valley of Lost Souls, like I said, is an absolute anthem. I think this should have been one of their bigger hits, but it never really quite got its feet off the ground, which I think is really, really unfortunate. Your Mama Don't Dance, I still really, really like. You will not change my mind on this. I think that is a great cover, and I think as a whole, it is a great song. But Valley of Lost Souls is just my style of music a lot more, okay? Like I said, it's heavy, it's got a great punch to it, it's very, very anthemic, like I said. Valley of Lost Souls will proceed to the final 4. So now we come to the second round in the second round, and it's Unskinny Bop versus Flesh and Blood Sacrifice. Man, I am really going to struggle with this one. I really like both of these songs. As I said in the previous round, the rhythm really saves both of them. The songwriting really saves both of them. But it's really, what do I prefer? Unskinny Bop, like I said, is really, really silly. And its chorus, is pretty ridiculous. It's a great sing-along, and Bret always got the crowd involved whenever I saw them in concert, and I really did appreciate that. But, I don't know. I really like Flesh and Blood Sacrifice. And, I'm going to go with Flesh and Blood, actually. Unskinny Bop has bitten the dust. And Flesh and Blood Sacrifice will move on. I just think Flesh and Blood Sacrifice is a more well-written song. I think it's more quote-unquote heavy metal than Unskinny Bop. It's a little bit darker, but still being pretty upbeat. But Flesh and Blood Sacrifice is going to move on. So then we come now to 2 songs that are off that first album, Look What the Cat Dragged In. We have Cry Tough, and we have Talk Dirty to Me. Like I said, Talk Dirty to Me is a very slick, very fast rocker, while Cry Tough is a more somber and not really soft, but slower number. Like I said, it's teetering on the edge between a rocker and a ballad, but both have their merits. Both, I think, are pretty strong songs, and I do like to sing along to both of them, but Talk Dirty to Me will win this one. This is one I did not have to think about. I absolutely love Talk Dirty to Me. But man, this may be my toughest decision of the night, at least up to this point. We have Ride the Wind versus Fallen Angel. Oh my God. Both are very, very similar songs. Both, like I said, I would not call... Yeah, they're two songs that are teetering on the edge between being rockers or ballads, but they're just both so emotional. And they both, like I said, really make me feel good about life in general. It just really comes down to the songwriting. Which one do I think is catchier? Which one do I think is better written? And as much as I love Ride the Wind, Fallen Angel has got to win here, and I cannot believe I just knocked out Ride the Wind. This was definitely the toughest decision out of the second round, I guess, and yeah, Fallen Angel is going to move on. And so we now have our final four. We have the 2nd seed, the 3rd seed, the 13th seed, and the 16th seed. And we now come to the first round of the final four. Valley of Lost Souls versus Flesh and Blood Sacrifice. And, again, these are two very, very definite anthems, and I do really appreciate both of them. But, it just really comes down once again to the songwriting. Like I said, they're very, very similar songs. But I think that Valley of Lost Souls is the more straightforward number. I think the chorus is much more catchy than Flesh and Blood Sacrifice. Very tough call, but Valley of Lost Souls is going to defeat Flesh and Blood Sacrifice. And that was a definite tough one, but I'm going to go with Valley of Lost Souls. So, wow, the 16th seed has actually made it to the final round. But the last thing we have, or the last out of the final four we have, is we have Talk Dirty to Me versus Fallen Angel. And two of my favorite Poison songs ever, okay? I really think that if maybe one of these had been in the other round, the final four, this would not be such a tough decision. But again, it really just comes down to what do I like better? What do I think is better? A very slick, very sleazy, yet very catchy number versus another number that has a great story behind it, has an emotional kick to it, and is also very well written. Well, it seems emotion is going to triumph over sleaze this evening. So Fallen Angel will move on to the final round. And we now come to the very final matchup, the very final face-off, as you see right here. We have Valley of Lost Souls versus Fallen Angel. And this actually ended up not really being the toughest decision ever, because I think Fallen Angel is an absolute classic. I think it's a really great song, and Fallen Angel is actually going to triumph. So Fallen Angel is going to be the overall winner, and that's what it's going to come out to, and I really want to thank you all for joining me. Valley of Lost Souls, like I said, is a very, very anthemic number. It's very, very aggressive, very, very catchy. But Fallen Angel, like I said, just has the emotional kick, and it's actually even more catchy in my opinion. And it's going to triumph over Valley of Lost Souls. So anyways, I just want to say thank you all for joining me tonight, and that is going to conclude my song tournament for Poison, and it was a great pleasure talking to all of you. So, I probably will be back next week. It's going to be very easy, and have a very pleasant evening.